Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm here with Mrs. Brenda Foy, school psychologist. Brenda, good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Yes, you're looking fresh. I lighted up the whole television screen and blinding the people in their living room. And Dr. June Samuel, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too, as
yes,
always.
Yes. I know we're smiling, but we're dealing with a serious matter.
Yes.
Very serious matter. We've had a few cases of, and I don't know how many cases, but I know at least of 3 cases of children who have either successfully committed suicide or have attempted. And then other children, I know personally of other children who are really going through some mental challenges. And then apart from the depression aspect, then there's the bullying in schools and in the play environment of other children. And then of course there's the cyberbullying and the social networks. And so there's a whole, seems like it's a gamut of attack on young people in the society these days. What's up? What's happening?
Well, our young people in BVI are certainly facing a significant number of challenges right now. And I would say that what is happening now is not new, but what is happening now is a little bit of an escalation to what was happening before. So we have been aware that in the population of our young people, that a significant number of young people walk around with suicidal ideation. We know that in the past there was actually a youth survey done in 2012, youth and adolescent survey in the BVI, and it showed, that survey showed that I think it was 62% of the young people surveyed had planned or attempted suicide. Okay, and it also showed that 73% of the females in that particular group were suffering from some sort of depression and having thoughts around self-harm, right? So we know that it's a situation that our young people have been struggling with. With the advent of the completed suicide that we had last year, I think what we have seen since then is a lowering of the threshold in that grouping. And so more over the last 3 or 4 months, certainly at People's Hospital, we've been seeing more young persons presenting who have attempted. We've had situations arising where we're having to respond to groups of young people who are engaging in self-injury type behaviors, so self-cutting.
Really?
Yes, yes.
High number.
And within that population group as well is the issue of substance abuse. So there's alcohol use that's going along with that. Of course, marijuana, which young people experiment with or are using.
Seem to be becoming increasingly prevalent, marijuana use.
Yes, yes. And the common theme with all of the cases, of course, is some sort of chaos going on in the children's lives. Okay, so whether it's chaos at home, chaos at school, chaos within the community, essentially our young people are not feeling safe and secure, and they're having to deal with a lot of challenges within the society, within their world. And they respond as, this is not new, it happens everywhere else in the world. They're not sure how to handle the feelings that they're having, and that's the way they respond.
When I hear things like cutting, I immediately think that the television is having an impact on the situation. Is part of the cause, part of what's making this thing happen. Because I don't know that where our young people know about cutting themselves as a manifestation of some kind of mental illness. We don't do that stuff. What's going on?
And that's the type of response that you know, typically we would hear from a lot of the older adults, right? It sounds surprising. I remember, you know, I always talk about, you know, when I was training and doing my residency in psychiatry, you know, in the textbooks you read about eating disorders. And at that time, and this is just, you know, between, I finished in 2000, so the 4 years prior to that, this is not that long ago, you know, my teaching in residency in the Caribbean was, well, eating disorders is not something that's common in the Caribbean. So you'll be surprised if you see it.
Yeah.
I've moved back home and guess what? We see it in our young people. So we have young people who, you know, are restricting their food or overeating because they have issues with their the perception of their self, body image issues. So,
but that's what I mean, though. Forgive me. That's exactly what I mean, because body image issue is, it would have to be based on a concept or perspective on what you think you should look like based on some perceived norm or based on some perceived value of beauty or weight or shape color hair texture. I mean, a whole series of values that doesn't necessarily come out of our culture.
right.
And that's why I go to the international mass media when I hear that kind of discussion.
In terms of exposure to those types of values within other communities, possibly as one of the issues that they're having to deal with. And you know that the internet brings everything home and close, so that's possible. But you know, we're all human beings, and we all will have emotional responses to situations that we're going through, and our children don't respond differently in any way that I'm aware of to children that I've dealt with elsewhere. If they're having challenges or, you know, confusion and pain and hurt because of the situations that they're in, they're going to find a way to respond, right? And maybe the self-cutting is, you know, wasn't a part of our cultural norm, but it is certainly something now that we're seeing emerging more and more in our young people, and we're very concerned about it.
But the reasons for the harm to self is certainly the same.
Yes.
Right.
However it manifests
Right.
is one thing, but the root cause is basically the same psychological trauma.
Exactly.
Yeah. You could chime in anytime you want to.
And I
Sister
agree
Brenda.
with Dr. Samuel, you know, because in talking to a lot of the young people, their pain is coming from not having the support in the home. Like one parent missing, or one parent, or the parents are there but not being there because they're out working, or they're just not paying the young
engaged.
people the attention that they're seeking. You know, some say, you know, they want to know who their father is. You know, so there's a lot of different things that they're really dealing with.
Well, let's look at the things. What's causing this this growing trend of our young people being depressed? I mean, in a world of material comfort and ease of life, you know, seemingly, what is causing this depression? What is causing these suicidal tendencies? Why do I want to leave the earth from a comfortable position in a home where, you know, I got a TV, I got
All
phone,
the latest gadgets.
I got all the latest gadgets,
That's
you
right.
know, the games. What is it? What's happening here?
They're experiencing a lot of pain, okay? Excruciating pain.
Emotional
and it could be,
pain.
Yeah, and it could be from various aspects. It could be a family history, you know, where persons in the family have had depressive symptoms, and so they have inherited it. That could be one. It could be a lot of social issues that they're dealing with. They could have been bullied. You hit on a few earlier. They could have been bullied from youth, from elementary school, and it continue on through high school, or it continue through their life, you know. So it could be that. It could be the divorce issues that they're dealing with. where, you know, there's a lot of strife between the parents. It could be where they feel they're not getting enough attention from the parents, whether it be the mother, father, or both. It could be stress. Stress from the workload that they have in school, where there might be expectations that they're not able to meet up to. So a lot of them feel that they're not being heard. So they're trying to talk to their parent or whomever, you know, and they're not listening, right? So it could be like a gamut of things, right? Where it all accumulates, you know, and they have a hard time coping with it. But it's the pain. What it all ends up to is the pain that they're feeling, that they are perceiving to have, right? And so we would look at them and say, yeah, you know, they live in a big house on the hill, you know, they have all the food in the world, you know, name brand stuff. What do they have?
Get some good licks.
And that is very often the response that we get from, you know, parents, caregivers. What do they have to be depressed about? But for children to grow up into healthy adults, they require safety, security, protection, consistency. Their world, whatever it is, has to have those elements. And when you have anything that disrupts that, okay, so whether it's environmental, so that could be within the home, outside of the home, any aspect of their world. So children have many different, you know, they're at home, they're at school, they're at play, anything within those spheres, their peer group, that creates stress and creates pain will lead then to them having some sort of an emotional response. Acceptance by the peer group is a big thing, especially when you know you're going through certain developmental stages as adolescents. And children can be very, very unfriendly to each other, cruel even, right? Sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, any form of neglect. Very often parents feel that, okay, we're in the home, we're giving them everything they need, so therefore they're fine. But for children, emotional contact and attachment is most important. And if you don't have that, sometimes parents are physically present, but they're not emotionally present. So the children find other ways to become attached. But these things all create for them void, pain, anger, hurt. And then that triggers a whole series of responses, and different children will respond differently. The other thing, of course, is, you know, there's also the physical development aspect, the medical aspect to it. Some children may have medical issues. We have an increasing number of children who are struggling with obesity, hypertension, diabetes, and those conditions will also trigger them to have depression, anxiety. They're different from their peers. They have to take medication. So that struggle for them will trigger some of those types of feelings. So for children nowadays, it's a challenging world that they're living in. And so I think some of what we're seeing now, you know, is just the fallout of them having to cope with these situations without a lot of support.
So they could be living in their houses with families, but not having any interaction, any meaningful interaction in the home.
You will be surprised how some of them will say, you know, when Daddy comes home and he just go in front of the TV or he goes to his room. You would hear, you know, they're not even having dinner together. Everybody is in their own separate area of the house, you know, they take their food to their room. You know, they're on the computer or iPad or whatever. So there's a lot of separation within the home. There's no
discussion, no communication,
no communication, no social interaction, no demonstration of affection. And that's something that has come up with quite a number of the children that I've seen. You know, there's just no demonstration of affection in the home. And you know, they're just the issues of having that connectedness to another person that's lacking. And so, you know, for children, they find a way to fill that void. And sometimes in the ways they choose to fill the void, they end up getting themselves into trouble and getting hurt.
They may not feel connectedness in school either, you know, where school, a lot of them have to try to fit in, and they just don't fit in because of, you know, people excluding them. So isolation, or being isolated, is also a risk factor.
So you're not good enough in your school environment. You're not good enough. The other kids not accepting you. You can't get in the clique group.
In the clique, right.
You can't. You know, you just like either ostracized or just you know you just don't make the cut.
And that could happen, you know, if you fall on either end of the spectrum. So if you're too bright, if you're doing well in school, you may be a nerd, and you know you're not a part of a particular group. You're not doing well in school. You know, you get teased about that. So
and if you don't have a certain appearance, you get teased about that. If you don't have a certain amount of money, you get teased about that. So okay. And now how great a role then is our adapted culture playing in these spirals that we're talking about, in this depression and this feeling of ostracism and lack of or low self-esteem? How the culture, our adapted culture, how much it seems to me is playing a big role, because all of those values, and I call them values, all of those values that we just talk about, I see them on television. I see them played out in various forms, in sitcoms and dramas and, you know, various genres of television entertainment and movies. And you hear about it in music. And so you got this culture coming at you. You're bombarded with this culture, with these values that perhaps you're unable to rise to the standard. And trying, and our children trying to be like
what they see,
which
is not real.
This illusion, this scripted illusion. I mean, are we identifying a correlation between that adopted culture that's being proselytized on us in our country and these various social challenges that we are having and mental challenges that we are having?
That's a good question. What I would say is, certainly when it comes to the structures that we need to have in place to provide support, so the family structure, for example, I think, and how that is playing itself out, I think is a major part of our issue here. And so, you know, we have family situations that are increasingly not doing well. The family unit is under a lot of stress. And even if you don't have, you know, let's say, you know, the typical nuclear family, previously we had supports, okay? And now more and more families are existing without that extended support. And so, you know, families are struggling on their own. And the children are now having to become more independent earlier, and therefore deal with more and more challenges that we probably didn't have to deal with before. So that aspect, I think, is one of our major issues, and how we, you know, provide the support, knowing the stress that the family unit is under, is one of the things that we need to address.
Isn't that more economic though? That as parents we are having challenges making ends meet, or we are having challenges keeping up with materialism?
Well, it may be a bit of both. It's definitely some economics.
I'm neglecting my children to support them, or I'm neglecting them I'm neglecting my children to feed them, or I'm neglecting them to provide them with the things that they see everybody else have.
Right. So, I mean, there's some economics to the whole reason why all of that is happening, and whatever the reason, whatever the economic reason is, whether it is your minimum wage and struggling, or you're not minimum wage and you're just trying to keep up with the Joneses, it you know, the point is that structure isn't there, and the research shows that, you know, that social support and connectedness for children is one of the factors that will improve, the likelihood of children developing into healthy adults. So that's something we need to address, because if we know that because of economic situations, the family is going to be under stress, then we as a society need to decide, okay, how are we going to provide more support for these families, and in what ways can we bring that support to the families? Yes, you have to work to make a living, and how do we help them to address or help us to all relook our cultural, what we consider to be our cultural norms and values? So do we need to be keeping up with the Joneses, and why are we trying to do that?
But you see, the other thing is too, we have single parents, and so that one parent have to work.
Yes.
Yes. And unfortunately they work various shifts or different hours,
Right.
where
And
they're
so
not
they don't-
there with the children.
And very often they don't have the extended support, so they may not
Right.
have the grandparents or the aunts. Yes, I have to work, but you can stay by your grandmother or your aunt. That support is not there.
Yeah. So the children are left alone to take care of themselves at 6,
And
7,
to
8.
take care of by the television.
Yes, and
Right.
certainly, Cromwell, yes, the imposition of the cultural, or what we think is normal from outside, or what shows up on TV, does play a role. Okay, and very often the children and young people have unrealistic expectations of what life really is about, and of course that will play into how they interpret what is happening with them as well. So there's some of that bringing back to reality that you have to
That they
do.
do. We gotta
Yes.
take a break. Take a break.
okay.
Go ahead. Go.
Okay, because what I find, we have a lot of deaths in our community as well. Every week there are 2 and 3 funerals, and so persons are losing loved ones, and that can also,
Play into.
play into the depression that they feel.
We're going to take a break for a word from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to talk about some solutions. We got about 15 minutes remaining in the program. We're going to talk about some solutions and what we can do to mitigate some of these challenges that we've identified, and how a role the adults can play in helping our children to negotiate and navigate the challenges that they're facing in life as presented in a world where we have to struggle for every inch of survival. We're going to be right back after these words from our sponsors. Don't go away.
Spotlight is brought to you by Tortola Concrete Limited and H. Lavity Stout Community College.
Thank you very much for tuning into Spotlight. If you've just joined us, we're having a conversation with school psychologist Brenda Foy and psychiatrist Dr. June Samuels, and we're talking about seem like an increasing trend in the Virgin Islands, depression and suicidal tendencies in our young people, children and adolescents. And we've been identifying some of the causes of those challenges, and now we would like to take a look at what we can do to help to at least slow the trend down, even slow the rate of growth, if not reverse the trend, at least look at it and slow the rate of growth. What's the answer?
Well, another thing, before we answer that, I think it's important that we mention that impulsivity, if the child is impulsive, a lot of times they're suffering with symptoms of ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And so if they're impulsive, then they can't stop to think the way that, the average person would think. So they make decisions very hastily.
Let me ask you a question quick. Is that genetic? Is it acquired?
What, ADHD?
Yeah. How do you get that? Is it?
Sometimes, well, like all mental illnesses, really, it could be genetic.
You mean if it runs in the family, you're prone to it?
Yeah.
But is it something that if it runs in the family, you're born with, or you're just prone to it?
Well, you can be, if it runs in the family, then you're at risk for developing it. So
Okay.
by that virtue, it could be genetic. But if we have like children who during birth may suffer some sort of trauma, or any kind of brain damage as a child, accidents, incidents, anything that affects the brain, any insult or injury to the brain, can
medications that parents
can
were taking as well.
predispose to the development of ADHD as one of the things that you can see.
Okay, because I want to go into the whole importance of parenting as a factor in the development of our young people regarding the whole depression and suicidal tendency challenges. How important is that?
It's parenting.
Parenting. How important is parenting in this whole equation that that is causing this trend?
Like Dr. Samuel mentioned earlier, there's certain things that children expect from parents. Safety. They want to feel safe.
Secure.
They want to feel loved. They want to feel secure, right? And if those pieces are missing, then they're going to be more at risk for having depression and then having the suicidal ideation and then possibly carry through, especially if the signs and the symptoms that are there are missed. A lot of times parents are even told or informed of the difficulties that the children are having, but they don't go out to get the help that's necessary. I don't know, I think some type of legislation or something need to be in place.
But we don't address that.
To make parents
Responsible.
more responsible.
Legally responsible for this.
Right.
Yeah, but that's not fair though, is it? Is that fair to say let's make parents legally responsible for their children when it requires a certain level of intelligence and education and commitment
Right,
that you're not born with, and as a society we are not really developing in parents, in adults to manage their offspring. Is it a whole societal problem?
Well, it is a societal problem, and it is something that we as a society need to decide that, from my perspective, we have an obligation, I think, to prepare persons to become parents or help them through the process. I agree with you. It doesn't, you don't learn, and even more so now, where we're growing up in a society where we have a divorce rate of upwards of 50%. The majority of families are single parent families. So immediately, how you're going to parent is you're going to come to parenting with a particular perspective because of the situation that you grew up in. So yes, I think as a society we have to make some decisions about how we support parents in the work of parenting. And parenting is important, to answer your previous question. It's very important because through parenting, one of the things that happens is you create that bond. The whole bonding and emotional attachment that children need to have with their parents, is developed through the process of parenting. And that is part of what helps to protect children in their own psychological development.
But we are saying as parents,
yes,
that I don't know what you're talking about parenting. My parents raised me. I turned out fine, and so I know how to parent by virtue of my parenting experience with my parent. And so I don't need anybody to tell me how to parent my child.
And my question
and nobody is saying anything about that.
Right, and my challenge to you is, did you really turn out fine?
But
are we really being honest about that?
But the thing is that you can't challenge me on that because I don't even know how to determine whether I turn out fine or not.
And that's
but the thing is that I still maintain that view. I still maintain that perspective that I'm fine. Because I got a good education. I'm living a comfortable life, and so look at me. I'm bad. So so nobody's saying. Cromwell, I challenge you. Why? You still have. I still identify these problems in you, and you know you're not really as good as well as you think you are, because had you had proper parenting, you might have been doing this, or you might have been thinking a different thought, or you might have been exhibiting a different type of behavior. You, the professionals, the people who should I be identifying these challenges, I'm not hearing anything from the professionals regarding the shortcomings that we have in parenting with a view to impact public policy.
Okay, maybe we're not talking loud enough in the right places.
Okay.
But I would say to you that yes, I think as a society we need to look at the whole issue of parenting and families, and look at what kinds of supports we want to put in place to help parents to become more effective parents. Okay, so we all will have our styles. Our parenting is, colored by our own experiences growing up, and that's the perspective from which we will parent. We don't want to say there's a wrong way to do it and a right way to do it, but I think that there are ways that as parents we can all be more effective parents and become more empowered to help our young people to face some of the significant challenges that they're facing. We have to get to the place where we accept that our young people are facing probably more significant challenges that I faced when I was growing up. I didn't think I had all these things to deal with. So that's part of the denial that we're living in that we need to begin to address.
And we are also saying that since we begin to recognize that a lot of persons who are having children are younger persons,
yes,
who themselves
right,
haven't been parented properly, and
right,
who themselves don't know how to parent.
Or may have had negative experiences,
may have
traumatic
had,
experiences
negative
themselves.
Yes. So we have that group of persons who have offspring that will perhaps naturally become or have a propensity to become dysfunctional. And we say, okay, well, since our children are at school 8 hours a day, for a good portion of the day, perhaps we need to have additional training for our teachers, additional rewards for our teachers, so that they could help with that training of the child during the time that the children are spending at school. We are resisting that idea, So as a society, I don't know how we are not grappling with these things. Are we? I mean, are you you're on the ground? You're on the ground. I don't feel like we're grappling on these things. We're resisting whatever idea we put forward about increasing teacher workload, putting more teachers in place with additional training, giving them more money so that they feel that they're getting paid for the job that they're really required to do, so that we can save our children, save our population, save our generations. We're resisting that. We are not giving our parents the support that we need. But we keep talking about the challenges that we have. Do we have any plans to solve this stuff, to bring solutions to these challenges? Yeah,
Brenda?
Am I out of line here?
Well, I would say that there are children with some challenges that are not being addressed. The support structures are just not in place. And
this is not a wider population problem. You said some children, some,
yeah, because
it's like you're getting ready to say, well, but the vast majority of our people are pretty normal and pretty healthy.
No, we have children really struggling with some academic issues, and the right support structures that need to be in place to help them are not there. They're still thrown into the classroom with the average learner when they need some intensive one-on-one help, right? And so that's going to add stress to that child, and so
I don't think that as a society we haven't done a very good job of marshaling all of our resources so that we can comprehensively address the issues. That's where I think that there is, we are trying to address the issues in a piecemeal fashion, and that's not going to work. I don't know that I agree with making it a part of the teacher's responsibility or a part of what the teachers do, but I think that there are ways that we can structure the day of our children and put more programs in place that can help to create a safety net for the children who are at risk. And there are lots of professionals here on the ground who I think we all know what needs to happen, but I do not believe that we have brought our resources together in a comprehensive way to address the issues.
Now, there's the other factor of the imposed culture or the adopted culture, because I don't know how it's
adopted.
It's imposed. I don't know if we are forced to adopt it, but the adopted culture of materialism, the expectation of our children from watching television, the desire for the gadgets, the desire for their parents, the desire for the clothes, the desire for all the luxury items that we see, and the role that plays in the depression and the parenting styles and all those things. And a possibility of censoring, and I know that's a word that everybody resists. So let me change it into monitoring what our children see and hear and read and come into their minds, that create the emotions that lead to depression and suicide. And start looking at thinking about perhaps we need to ban some television programs, or we need to ban television altogether, or we need to develop some local television so that we could feed our children information that we want them to have, and we need to block out some of the outside television, and then we come up against the whole notion of freedom of choice.
Freedom of choice and rights.
And rights and all that stuff.
That's right.
I mean, how do we deal with that as a society? Can we agree that these things that are so harmful to society, we need to seriously look at how we can curtail some of these activities? I mean, we want to continue to perpetuate activities in our society that is harmful. It's like keep smoking cigarettes.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Where parenting is necessary, A lot of times the children are left with the tablets, with the iPads, with the whatever, the computers, and they're exposed to all kinds of stuff.
And they go to all sorts of websites.
Yes. So
there's the parenting. If you want to at the micro level, so some of that in terms of censoring and monitoring is parenting. You putting boundaries in place for your child. You creating structures for your child. No computers in your room, right? Those types of structures and boundaries that parents have to take the responsibility to impose on their children. And that's a parent's responsibility. And then at the macro level, there's the responsibility of society now to make some decisions about, how do we control what comes through on cable TV? How do we control what's shown in movie theaters? How do we control the shows and who gets into that's a macro decision that has to be made. And we as a society, as you rightly said, we have to make some decisions about how we want our society to be structured and to be governed.
Yeah, because aren't we making the parenting more difficult when we sticking these things right up in front of our children's faces? We tell them, no, that's not good for you, or we have to control your access to this thing, but it's up in their face constantly, and the benefits of it, or the the good feeling about it is ever present and creating the desire to have it. I mean, it's like you trying to go on a diet and you're trying to stop eating chocolate and chips and all of the bad food, but when you go to the supermarket,
That's all
it's
that you see,
right
right?
up in your face.
Yeah, but I think part of it though, Cromwell, is empowering our parents to feel that they can take some of these decisions and support them in making the decisions, because too often I find with the parents that I have to deal with, and I think Brenda would have found some of this as well, parents sometimes present themselves almost as being powerless to impose some of these rules, as we like to call them, right, in their own homes, right? And we have to find a way to address that particular feeling that some parents do have. How do we empower parents to be able to take a stance and deal with their children as they see fit and support them in making those decisions?
We're under the turn of the clock. Yeah. But the conversation has begun. And we definitely need to continue this conversation. And we need to put it up in the face of the public policymakers and those persons who allocate resources for social development, so that they start to get to thinking about what is necessary in order to address these issues. Because we going along and putting band-aids on sores, creating industries around social ills, and it's becoming increasingly harmful. So we have to take a look at it. Sister Brenda, it's good to have you. Good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes.
I came with the expectation to talk more about, what suicide looks like and what depression looks like, the signs and symptoms and so on. Didn't quite get to do that, but we do have a campaign going on where Dr. Samuel, myself, Dr. Turno, Dr. Rubain, we're going out to schools in the communities, going to visit PTAs, doing workshops with school staff and parents to share about how suicide and depression connects and what we can do as persons, who might be in contact with children or who might be suicidal. Okay.
Well, I'm sure Ejuenko will be inviting us back, and we will talk about that.
Well, I'm planning to make this a regular part of Spotlight, this discussion.
Great.
And I'm hoping that you guys will help me to come on a periodic basis to talk about these issues. And
I'll be willing to do that, because I think the whole area of adolescent mental health is something that we need to get to talking about and talking loudly about, because these children and adolescents are who are going to be the adults of tomorrow. So we need to get to talking about it.
And we want to save lives, right? One death is one too many.
Yes.
One suicidal death is one too many.
So when will you be going around to the communities? When is that plan?
We started in December, really, and it's ongoing.
So where have you gone?
So far, we've been to.
We've been to Joyce Samuel.
Seventh-day Adventist.
Enid
Scatliff, yes.
We have Francis Lettsome coming up.
Francis Lettsome coming up. We've been to Willard Whitley. We're going to Anegada on Sunday. So as schools get back to us, we are.
But the aim is for this term, we want to hit every school PTA.
When is Francis Lettsome coming up?
I think that is when?
Either Wednesday or Thursday, because that's Dr. Turner.
I think Thursday. Thursday.
This Thursday coming. Okay.
This Thursday at 5.
Okay. Cool.
So we will be back. Let us know when.
Okay.
So we can talk about it some more.
In a couple of weeks.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Because this is a conversation I really want to have all the time, because we're not talking enough about this stuff.
I agree.
Right. Okay.
When I wanted to be up in the policymakers' face,
Yes.
that something needs to be done about it. Next spotlight will shine on Virgin Island Station, big Virgin Island Station coming up, bridging the gap with Shine and a myriad of local artists. And the spotlight will always also shine on the University of the West Indies and the tertiary education opportunities available in the Caribbean. So be sure to be here for the next Spotlight. Spotlight, of course, is seen every Tuesday at 8 p.m. here on JTV Channel 55 and rebroadcast Sundays at 2:30 p.m. Like our Spotlight Facebook page. Participate in discussions, or you can come up with issues of your own or make suggestions for guests that you'd like to see on Spotlight. I'm Edgerenko, reminding you that when the Spotlight is on, you see the facts. Peace and blessings.
Spotlight is brought to you by Tortola Concrete Limited and H. Lavity Stout Community College.